So here is how you can retain information very well and in a way that is very time efficient. This can be used on books, on YouTube videos, on lectures, on random ideas that you get that are useful. This is really strong. I recommend you watch this till the end, because this, if you're not doing this already, then starting to do this can be insanely valuable. I think I don't need to really explain why. I mean, if in 10 years you can pretty much still like use information that you ingested now, that's pretty wild. And also, obviously, you know, if you like just need to learn something, for example, for uni, or because you wanna, you know, just use it right now, then that's perfect. So, first of all, and I think this is a no-brainer, but I still say this, you need to take notes. And this is not just when you're attending lectures or something, this is also when you're reading books. This is when you're watching a YouTube video. Theoretically speaking, in a conversation, although that would be a bit weird, but still. When you get a random idea in the shower, whenever, take notes. So, what to do with those notes? There are different approaches. I'm gonna tell you mine, and I think this is about as good as it gets, probably. I'm sure this can be slightly optimized further. Anyways, you don't really need to optimize it any further. So, after a session, and I'm going to assume that you didn't just take one note, you know, you can do this after a session or after you accumulated a certain amount of notes, whenever, whatever. I personally do it after I'm done with a reading session or after I'm you know, home from uni or something like that. What I do is I will think about every idea, because every note that you take should be an idea. You know, it could also just be a random fact that you don't really have to think too much about. Like, I don't know, like this bone is called this thing, yeah, you know. In that case, obviously, it'll be a bit different. But if your notes are concepts or something like that, or things that you can do, then what I suggest you do is you first think about what you just criticize the idea. Do you agree with this? Does this conflict with something that you know? Is there some logical error? You know, because one, you should be critical of the information that you're ingesting, and two, which is also really important. Let's say there is everything there is cool. You know, now you used it critically. The second thing is that I would use it, or I would suggest you use it to solve some problem, so, or relate it to something. So if you learn about some, I don't know, some tool, you know, let's say that you can use curiosity in order to keep people playing a video game that you're making, then you should think about some examples of how you can do that. Like what specifically can I do in order to use that? Or what situations would this be good in? A lot of the time, there isn't a very immediate use case, and in that case, you just want to use that information in order to explain something. So you can use a psychological principle. Let's say, actually, you can, with psychological principles, what I like to do is, first of all, I like to just think about how I can actually like use this directly. For example, let's say social proof. You could make an ad, and in that ad you have some people who like your product, and then the viewer's primitive brain just goes like, oh, people like this product, it must be good. You know, monkey see, monkey do. That would be one use case. Not saying that I think this would be a great ad to run, you know, but this would be effective. And this is obviously a use case of the psychological principle, which is social proof tendency. Now, another way to apply this is to try to understand something with this. So you can use this to explain certain behaviors. Let me think. You can use this to explain why people smoke, for example. Like a big part of that is peer pressure. I mean, nobody starts smoking by thinking, would my life improve if I smoked? Now, obviously, people don't just start smoking because of peer pressure. There's also other stuff. For example, classical conditioning, which basically means that you associate one thing with another thing. Like you, let's take cigars, for example. I think cigars are probably a better example than cigarettes. When I think of cigars, I tend to think of, I wouldn't say cool people, but people who give off cool vibes, like Bond villain type vibes. And obviously, if you have this association, then a product is going to be more attractive. And this principle can be used in a lot of other ways, but this is not a video about psychological principles and how they can be applied. This is a video about how you can retain information better. So I'm just gonna stop this tangent right now. So after you have processed the information, I would then highly suggest that you get some kind of flashcard app. By the way, I take all of my notes, or almost all of my notes, on my phone. Sometimes I take notes on my PC. Actually, I never take notes on paper. I know that technically speaking, theoretically speaking, it's optimal to take notes on paper. For the simple reason that it takes more effort to write shit down on paper. However, I don't do that because it's inconvenient, and I would much rather actually take notes than, want to take notes but then not actually take notes. And also, obviously, I always have my phone with me, or at least compared to when I have a notepad ready. And also, it's much easier to then later organize those notes. So that's the next thing. I would highly recommend you to get a flashcard app. Let me just show you the app that I'm using. Wait. I am using this app, Anki app, flashcards. It's good. It does its job. I can't fucking talk. It does its job, and it doesn't piss me off. It doesn't piss me off frequently. So this app is perfectly sufficient for me. I don't particularly recommend this app specifically. Use any flashcard app, any app that has some kind of algorithm that's remotely reasonable for when it shows you which flashcard, right? So it shouldn't be 100% random. It should have, it should show you cards that are recent a bit more, and it should prioritize cards that you have problems with. And this app does that, and it does that pretty well. I'm not 100% happy with this. I'd give it like 4 stars, but that's perfectly fine. Don't obsess over this. Now, you want to chunk your notes, and what I mean by that is, let me just take some stuff from my game design card deck. Basically, like the way it's organized, you have decks. You can create different decks of cards. And then every deck is, I make every deck a topic, like let's say game design or psychology or social skills, something like that. So the way I organize those things is basically I have a topic here. And yeah, then here is the amount of points. So there's 4 points. This is fundamental pillars of game design, and it's not mechanics and story or whatever. No, this is not how I organize this. I am smarter than that. So the things that I have here, mechanics are just a vessel through which you do this. So the things that I have here are matching, skill, and challenge. Like basically, this is like what things have to be in order for your game to be good. So first of all, we have matching skills and skill and challenge, because that induces a set of flow. We have reward schedules. I'm not going to explain reward schedules because they're slightly more complicated, and I suck at explaining things without going on a massive tangent. I'm actually decent at explaining things when I'm allowed to go on a huge tangent, but I don't want this video to be half an hour long, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. Although this is super valuable, so actually it wouldn't be a waste of time, but I don't want to waste my time right now, so... holy shit, I'm looking kind of evil right now. But I'm just looking at my phone. This is not intentional, so... Oh yeah, then the third thing is using things that naturally motivate people. Natural motivators would be things like the human desire to be better than others, the human, I say, like instinct to fight off enemies, the human desire for, let's say, sex or for food, the human aversion to death, you know, as a threat, stuff like this. By the way, a little piece of advice on the side for any game designers watching this. You can massively enhance a player's flow state by threatening them with death if they make mistakes, and by making it not super duper hard for someone to die. So if you can die at a moment's notice, generally speaking, people are more engaged. Or if you can fuck up and then you are basically signing your death certificate. Holy shit, I suck at talking. Then you can keep people a bit more engaged. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why RTS games aren't as popular as some other things. Not saying that RTS games aren't that popular, but let's put it like this: that there's a reason why StarCraft isn't the premier esport anymore. You know, in games like League of Legends, you can like, even though the time to kill is not super duper low, a lot can happen in like 10 seconds. I mean, I suppose in StarCraft a lot can happen in 10 seconds too, but I don't think it's to the same extent. I haven't played StarCraft, actually. I haven't watched it either. So I can't say that much. I didn't play League of Legends either. Only like the tutorial and like 1 or 2 matches. Although I did watch a bunch of LoL esports, so I'd say my understanding of LoL is pretty good from an outside perspective, not necessarily from a perspective of what to do micro. Yeah, and then obviously the fourth thing would be giving players rewards that naturally appeal to them. So that would be shiny objects. Give them a sword that looks epic. Give them something that makes them stronger, because, you know, people tend to gravitate towards aesthetic things. We are just designed to think that certain things are good. A good example of this would be that we judge attractiveness largely based on looks. Doesn't matter what anybody says, you do that too. Yeah, obviously those things could be other things as well, such as the satisfaction of a victory. I personally am not super duper on board with the notion that you can actually separate, let's say, the joy of getting a rank up and the joy of killing 2 people who you're not supposed to kill, because the odds are against you. I do not personally see a big difference there. A certain part of your brain, I'm not gonna get into that shit. It's not just the dopamine part, lights up. And by the way, this then makes your brain release more dopamine in similar situations later. Although technically you're not just getting dopamine, you're also getting a bunch of other brain chemicals. Although what exactly would depend. You know, for example, in a more cozy moment, you'd get serotonin and stuff. Actually, I don't know which exact chemicals are being released when you're like destroying something, let's say in Valorant. I actually don't know that. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm getting off topic very heavily. So I have those 4 things. Oops. And, you know, the deck is game design, and here I have this, you know. And I would recommend you to chunk things again as well. So for example, here I have this fundamental pillars. Or another thing could be how to give the player a sense of progression, and I just list off tools for that. Or theoretically speaking, I'm not doing that because I would then have a flashcard with like fucking 20 things or something. But theoretically speaking, you could also make a flashcard like fundamental human behavioral and cognitive tendencies. Why is my camera so weird right now? I don't know. And then you would just list off a bunch of shit. Okay, no, it's better. And then you would just list off a bunch of tendencies like social proof tendency, deprival super reaction tendency, inconsistency avoidance tendency. What's that thing called? Actually, those are not technical terms. This is just what I and Charlie Munger call those things. Yes, the stuff like that, basically. Association tendency. So that would be classical conditioning, like if I ring a bell whenever I give you food, you want to salivate. Actually, the first examples that came to mind were all porn examples. By the way, if you're interested in psychology, Your Brain on Porn, which is basically a website that's dedicated to educating people about the dangers of porn, that's a fucking goldmine if you want to learn about psychology. Both from a perspective of what it can do, what people can do to you as a consumer and fuck your mind, and also obviously from the perspective of how do you keep people engaged and stuff. It's actually quite fascinating. I learned, like, but this is a side tangent, but like I learned a lot of stuff about psychology in my when I was trying to not use this on other people, but just optimize. I wouldn't say optimize, like unfuck my life. At some point. Anyways, so you would chunk notes, right? And to give you a couple of more theoretical examples, I'm gonna use theoretical examples because I don't want to go on too much of a tangent. But you could go like active listening tools. You know, if you want to talk about social skills, like if you're a salesman, that would be probably a good thing to have. You know, or I don't know. I can't come up with any examples. I have focused a lot today and my brain is mush. My brain right now is basically on... I'm operating on the level that most people operate on normally. Which is shit. So yeah, so basically you chunk those notes properly so you get like a headline and then on the other side you put this stuff. And I also personally then put a number behind the headline, and the number is just, you know, the count for how many things I have to list off. So for example, if the number is 4, I know, okay, I have to list off 4 things. So when I have 4 things, then I know that I got everything. And maybe I got something wrong, but at least I didn't forget anything in the sense that I only have 3 things. And obviously, if I only got 3 things, I know that I'm not done yet, so I don't have to think about, wait, was that it? Instead, I can just think, oh, wait, what's the 4th thing? Oh, fuck. This is what I recommend you do. And then obviously, last but not least, you need to make it a habit to go on this app and just revise or recall your notes. And honestly, I do that on the bus. I do that every day in the morning for whatever amount of time, whatever I feel like. It could literally, I recall 1 card. It could be me doing it for half an hour, like on days on which I don't have anything urgent to do. Sometimes it's half an hour. I personally have a really good memory, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this shit. It's not shit, I'm just cursing for no reason, but I don't need to spend a lot of time on this stuff. If your memory is worse than mine, just do more. There is no shame in revising more notes. Okay, what you want is that shit sticks in your brain. If that's accomplished and it takes a bit more time than it takes someone else, that's cool. And also, by the way, if your memory is really fucking good and you're only spending like 10 minutes a day, but you can recall everything very fluently, that's cool too. Like, the amount of time that you spend should just be based on like how much you need and obviously on how much you have. Yeah. Also, by the way, I would not suggest that you just have one big session. I would recommend you to just do this randomly throughout the day. You know, so like a lot of people, they randomly get their phone out because they're bored and they want stimulation, and then they go on fucking TikTok or something cringe like that. Just do the same thing, except don't go on TikTok. Instead, just go on this app or whatever app you choose. And then do that, yeah. And that's basically how you retain information. By the way, also want to say something on the side, which is that a lot of the time when you're given a book to read in school, and I would say the same thing will be true in uni, Although I can't speak of experience, but on first principle, it must be true. I may just be wrong about the exact intensity of this. It's hard to verbalize. Anyways, let me just say it like this. When you're given a book to read, then assuming that most people pass, let's say 50% of people pass, and your goal is to pass, or let's say like your goal is to be above average. But if you want to be, let's say, the best, then the same thing applies. You just need to shift the numbers a bit. So anyways, let's say you want to be above average. Then all you really need to do is you need to retain more information than the average student in your class. And I'm just gonna be honest, if you're not studying at fucking Harvard or something, most people are gonna retain information horribly. They suck. Okay. So, and then not in the sense that they're bad people, but they suck at retaining information. So if you can retain information, like basically, if you can retain the gist of a book, plus what each chapter, plus like the central lesson of each chapter, plus maybe like 2 or 3 specific things from a chapter, honestly, that's a bonus. Let's just ignore that. No, you retain the main lesson, or the main couple lessons from each chapter, and the gist of the book, you're set. Not in the sense that you're going to be amazing, and if you want to actually get good at something, I would highly recommend you to read the entire book actually. But if you just want to get like a decent grade or something, I would highly suggest, if you're going to do the time efficiently, to fuck that and to just watch a YouTube video. Because generally speaking, if you have like a half an hour thorough review, if you can retain the information well, you're going to learn more than your peers will if they read the book, if they don't retain the information well. So I think most of the leverage that you can get lies within the realm of information retention, not within the realm of information ingestion, if that makes sense. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say. This was very spontaneous. I just thought I'd help some people out. Let me just pause and think for a second. No, that was it. Keep calm and see.